6-0 is the score in favour of the Amy Forex Queensland Maroons. Harvey Norman replay.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And as viewers of Nine's State of Origin discovered in 97 different countries last week, sport in Australia has advertisers' names plastered all over it.
At half-time, it is Queensland 8, New South Wales 4. Holden half-time. Our panel will take us through the KFC first half highlights. That's next as Wide World of Sports brings you the Holden State of Origin.
After the commercial break, which had 4 minutes of conventional ads, and with the second half underway, a record 4.2 million Australian viewers flew into a blizzard of signage and supers for Holden, Amy and VB, among others. And at the end of the game, they were treated to Tui's new highlights and the Australian Union's Man of the Match award. A few nights earlier on Nine's digital channel Gem, we saw a similar commercial frenzy at the Ashes. We had VB on the players' shirts, Investec on the pitch, and branded replays at every opportunity, like the Hyundai highlights, the KFC key matchups, and my all-time favourite, the Old Socks Award.
Yeah, it was a standout all-day Socks outstanding performance yesterday, wasn't it, from Peter Siddle?
Now, if you think the number of these sponsored segments is out of control, you might be right. Even interviews can now be sold. During this chat with outstanding sock wearer Peter Siddle, there was a logo over the fast bowler's shoulder, which was followed by a back announce for the sponsor.
Roz's interview today, of course, brought to you by the good people at Boating, Camping and Fishing, a great sponsor of our coverage.
But that's not all the cash-strapped Channel 9 is now prepared to do to cosy up to advertisers.
More Forex Cricket Gold with me, Michael Slater.
Michael Slater is a regular member of Nine's commentary team. He's on the Wide World of Sports set with the theme tune behind him. But while he sounds like he's part of the Ashes broadcast, this too is an ad.
There's nothing more enjoyable than beating England in their own backyard. And Australia's 1948 side, captained by the Don, won every game. They were nicknamed the Invincibles and reckoned to be our best lineup ever. Mind you, this lineup's looking pretty good.
Now, not all this stuff is new, but it is more and more pervasive. And it's not just driven by greed. Channel 9 nearly went bust last year. Channel 10 is in dire straits, and Australia's newspapers are in a spiral of decline. So everyone is desperate for revenue and eager to give advertisers whatever they want. And that is to be part of the programme.
Good evening, Lachlan Kennedy with a special interest rate update. Earlier today, the Reserve Bank kept the official cash rate on hold at 3%. Ben Hurden from Mortgage Choice joins me now.
It has the 10 News at 5 set, the 10 News presenter, and it looks like a 10 News story. But it was in fact fake news, an ad for Mortgage Choice. And so is this.
Good evening, Matt Doran with a special interest rates update.
2 months ago, Media Watch called those ads prostitution. And 10 replied, it's now the way of the world.
To describe them as prostitution is ludicrous, extreme and naive. Sponsored segments are commonplace in news bulletins across all commercial networks.
The folks on breakfast television understand that, and they keep their paymasters happy with regular puffs for their sponsors, like Myer and David Jones. Qantas is a big sponsor of Channel 9's Today. And when the airline resumed flights to the Gold Coast last year, there was huge excitement, with live crosses and a string of good news stories about happy customers.
Back home now, and some good news for travellers heading to the Gold Coast.
Well, Qantas has announced it will resume daily services between Sydney and the Gold Coast.
Qantas will resume daily services between Sydney and the Gold Coast in late October. Good news, after a deluge of feedback from its frequent flyers. For more, we're joined by Alison Ariotti, our reporter on the ground. Alison, this was the #1 request in terms of feedback from customers, and now it's on.
Today covered the story 4 times in a morning and picked up a heap of frequent flogger points for its 7 minutes of priceless plugs, which really kept the sponsors happy. And nowadays, that is the name of the game. As the editor of the Australian's luxury magazine Wish recently admitted, publications like his, which get all their revenue from ads, can only exist if they listen to advertisers' demands.
I think you have to if you're working in magazines today, and I think any magazine editor who tells you that they're not is either lying or is heading for failure very quickly. Once upon a time it would just be about stories, you know, who have you got on the cover, who have you got an interview with now. Now it's, you know, how much money is so-and-so spending with you.
Take a look at the July issue of Wish and you'll see what he means. There's a 2-page ad for Omega watches and a 3-page article on George Clooney, who's an Omega ambassador. There are also glossy ads for Tag Heuer watches, Argyle Diamonds and Melbourne's Crown Metropole. And sure enough, Wish has good news stories to match them all. Back in 2011, the marketing man for Pandora Jewellery confessed that getting editorial coverage for their ad spend was the key to success.
Pandora credits success to editorial demands. Jeff Burns told Ad News that the company's editorial integration approach is one of the most important factors in its rapid rise. Part of his magazine deals is a stipulation that Pandora gets plenty of editorial coverage.
Burns also told Ad News that some media organisations were keen to meet his demands.
News Limited is showing far more interest than Fairfax, Burns says. News Limited has been doing a fine job.
In fact, News Corp Australia, as it's now called, now makes this clear, telling advertisers in this presentation that it's happy to play their game and ensure their message gets through.
Editorially, we will support the campaign. Our editorial teams are commercially minded and work with partners to achieve campaign objectives.
The buzzwords in this area are branded content and content integration. According to News,
branded content is where News Australia commissions journalists to write content which reflects the brand attributes and values of the advertiser.
That's not what journalism was when I started my career. Clearly, times are changing.
Content integration is where existing content, relevant to an advertiser, is sponsored or branded for a period of time.
The examples News Corp Australia gives, like a Mercedes campaign in Wish, or Paul Newman sourced recipes on taste.com.au, or Vodafone branding the summer of cricket across news mastheads, may be no big deal for readers or the paper's integrity. But it would be far more serious if it spread to news. So, let's take a look at this. On the 23rd and 25th of May this year, News's major daily newspapers carried huge double-page ads for clothing store Target. On the 23rd and 24th of May, news.com.au and Melbourne's Herald Sun splashed a story on Katrina Rowntree's new range of baby clothes, designed for, yes, Target.
Rowntree targets more woolly thinking. Rowntree has created the first 100% wool baby range for Target.
It's beautiful, soft and sustainable, and thankfully at a Target price.
In case you missed the point, if you want to buy this clothing range,
it's available exclusively at Target stores and online.
The story was written by the Herald Sun's fashion editor Kim Wilson, who sounds almost as cosy with Rowntree as those Target woolies. The next day, the celebrity designer tweeted gratefully,
"A belated but heartfelt thank you to Kim Wilson and news.com.au HQ for supporting Ostwool and my range, now at Target Oz."
But it wasn't only Rowntree the Herald Sun was supporting. Again, on the 24th of May, Kim Wilson hit the target with another story in the paper.
One style fits all. Onesies for the whole family, all available from Target. As the cold weather hits, department stores Target and Myer and specialty onesie retailers are reporting a spike in sales. Sally Shing of Target said all-in-one sleepwear had become one of the most popular items for winter.
Now, maybe these were the two best fashion stories of the day. Or maybe not. But here's another example. Target's sister company, Coles, is an even bigger advertiser, with a total media budget of $76 million a year. A good chunk of this goes to News Corp Australia's tabloids, which depend on ads from the supermarkets and banks to stay in business. There must be a huge temptation to give Coles editorial support for its marketing campaigns. So, does News give in?
Coles slashes prices. Coles has expanded its Down Down campaign to leading branded groceries by slashing the price of Vegemite, cornflakes and Milo.
A couple of weeks before those Target stories, the Herald Sun went big on the latest Coles price cut campaign.
Coles prices down, down. I think the customers are going to love it.
The story, which came from a Coles media release, also went out online on news.com.au right across Australia. And a couple of other papers in the network also gave it a run. That same day, double-page ads for the Coles campaign appeared in all the major daily papers owned by News Corp Australia. And looking back through the archives, it's clearly not the first time this has happened.
Coles revs up price war.
Back in January, the Herald Sun ran another big story on Coles cutting prices.
In a new front in the supermarket price war, Coles is slashing the price of scores of shelf items. From today, the Down Down campaign will be expanded by more than 100 products.
That story, which also relied on a Coles media release, ran in various guises in 7 News Corp Australia dailies. And once again, it was accompanied in all the papers by big ads from Coles. Looking through the cuttings, we also wonder whether negative stories about Coles get the space they deserve. A year ago, The Australian ran a piece in which former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett laid into the supermarket chain for selling Irish bread, claiming it was baked today.
Coles's freshly baked Irish bread, a con, Kennett tells ACCC. Jeff Kennett has demanded the consumer watchdog step up its investigation of the supermarket giants, launching a fiery attack on Coles for manipulating its market power and deceiving customers by selling foreign bread as freshly baked.
Coles is trying to drive producers and farmers out of business here,
he said.
It seemed the perfect tabloid story. TV and radio loved it. But there was nothing at all in the mass-market Daily Telegraph and Herald Sun. Recent rows involving Coles, where the supermarket has been fined or caught making dubious claims, have also rarely been prominent in those papers. So, is there a connection? Does good news on Coles get more of a run and bad news less than it deserves to keep this big advertiser happy? News Corp Australia's John McGaughty says absolutely not. Stories get in on merit and advertisers do not influence their decisions.
The editorial network breaks stories, such as supermarket price wars, that we believe are of interest to readers battling with the rising cost of living. Our editorial procedures are independent of any commercial relationships.
It's a hard life in newspapers nowadays. Sales are falling fast. Ad revenues this year are down 20%, and those News Corp Australia papers can no longer rely on profits from other parts of the business. But I can't help recalling that famous line. News is something that somebody doesn't want printed. All else is advertising. It's not just News Corp Australia and Channels 9 and 10 that are facing these pressures and perhaps succumbing to them. Times are tough. But please, all you editors and journalists out there, for our sake, don't give in. Trust is a valuable commodity. Don't throw it away. And as always, you'll find more on this story on our website. But for now, that's all from me. Goodbye.